So what's up you guys, long time no speak / video / you know what I mean. It's time for a quick update and it is wildcard timer. So everybody go crazy, wildcard time. Wildcard. And I know what you're asking, why now Nim? Why? Why now? First up, here's how my team looked before I wildcarded. Now, some might say this isn't a terrible team name, and on paper I completely agree with them. But for the past 2 game weeks, I've got below average, and that means red arrows. If you couple that with Otamendi's suspension, Lascelles' injuries, a midfield without Salah or Mane, it just kind of felt like the right time. Now I have 2 weeks to tinker with my team, but I don't usually wildcard this early. I usually wait till around Christmas. But with FPL Holly at FFcommunity_ giving us a good glimpse of the run of fixtures over the Xmas period, I think if you have a wildcard left, you might want to consider getting it used by game week 16, because that's when the Christmas pandemonium begins. That is, unless you're incredibly forward planning. You know exactly what you want to do with your wildcard, and you're happy to use that wildcard within 24-hour period, because in some cases that is our turnaround for our teams over the Christmas period, then I seriously suggest considering playing it sooner rather than later. Although I'm pretty sure I'm late to the party anyway, to be honest. And most of you will know I'm not very forward planning, not very good at that sort of thing, looking really far ahead. But I'd be incredibly terrible if I had to do a wild card overnight. I'd just panic and Lord knows what I'd end up with. It would be completely kind of reactive team rather than a proactive team, which is, I don't think, a good way to play FPL at all. So that's some of the reasons why I'm considering playing it now, and the fact that we have 2 weeks to think about it. And as I say, we have a good idea now of some of the teams and some of the players that are doing incredibly well. So on that note, what are the teams I'm considering? Here's my premium forwards team lineup. Now I am seriously tempted by this team, seriously tempted. I mean, look at how sexy that front three is. I mean, it is just, and it's not even a terrible midfield, to be fair. I mean, there's nothing terrible about that midfield whatsoever. Where it all goes a little bit up the creek, though, some might argue at least, is the defence. It's not a very strong or premium defence in terms of monetary value. Some might argue that's not really a problem so far this season. So let me know what you think. Pop me some comments below. I'll be interested to know whether you think it's worth investing all of your money in the midfield and up front. Just on a little side note, Pogba is reported to be back in training with his teammates at some point in this international break. That means when Kaku gets his best buddy back, he is a much more viable option again for our teams. And that's just a little thank you to @BenDinnery for that little bit of information, because I think that one's going to come in handy over the next few weeks. Now, I haven't looked at the run of fixtures for these teams. It's pretty bad of me. I need to get onto that actually. So these players may get swapped around a little bit if I was to go with this option. But I thought I'd share it with my friends and my FPL obsessives, just like myself, the #NimFams anyway, and get your thoughts and feelings on these teams. So that's what the team would look like if I was to go with a sexy premium forward team. Now let's look at that sexy premium forward team versus a balanced team. And this is what I mean by a balanced team. In this team, I have 2 premium forwards, 2 to 3 premium midfielders, if you call Richarlison premium, 2 premium defenders, and David De Gea, and a partridge in a pear tree. Now, I put this team in on my wildcard at the beginning of the week to try and catch some of the price rises. People like Jones, Salah, Sané, all, you know, steadily growing in price. So I thought try and catch some returns on those, especially if I am considering keeping this team more or less as it is here, then, you know, I may as well earn a bit of money on some of those players. And just in case you're wondering who's under the little yellow squares, we have Lascelles under Duffy. Lascelles, as I mentioned earlier, is suffering from an injury, and Murray underneath Abraham. Not sure about this choice. There are so many options in that third striker spot. We could be looking at Nias or Calvert-Lewin. I'm not really thinking that player, that third striker spot will be played every week. So on that note, they don't have to be consistent in points, and so therefore I don't want to invest too heavily. Abraham seems the best option for the best price at the moment, but he is going to be ineligible to play, so I do need to bear that in mind with this wildcard. And that's where some forward planning on my fixtures will come in handy, because then I'll know who it is I can play instead. Now, I don't know what you guys think, but this team just feels far more sensible to me, far more balanced, and I kind of like that. I do go a bit bat crazy now and again, I really do, but it is also nice to start with a sensible base so that, you know, I am allowed some room to go, you know, naughty crazy later on. I nearly swore then, but you know what I mean. And I'm thinking it pretty much means that I'm not hampered by the fact that if my front three, my premium front three, doesn't haul in a game week, or a couple of them don't play or they get rotated, unlikely with two of them, but if that was to be the case, then, you know, I'm not reliant on the rest of my team like I was when I had Kane, Lukaku and Vardy up front, which some might say is a premium front three considering how expensive Vardy is. But like last game week, they all just got 2 points, and it kind of left me relying on the rest of my team, and with the City midfield catching rotations, it just makes for a difficult life, because then you've got nothing really to fall back on. You don't really have any strong defenders or other midfielders to lean back on for points. So whilst I'm fighting the case for this balanced team, when really in the back of my head I'm just thinking, pick the sexy forward side, pick the sexy forward side. But whilst I am arguing the case for the balanced side, I probably should mention a few things. Most of the top 10 FPL teams right now, little insider scoop for you, have just 2 premium forwards. They have mainly gone for 2 premium forwards up front. And then what that's allowed them to do is spread their funds around the rest of their team, creating a more balanced team. They also have a fair few players in common. Players like David De Gea and Salah, you know, a vast majority of those teams have those 2 players in them. Also, 6 out of 10 of them have Aguero in their team. In some cases with Kane, and in some cases without Kane, but that's just over half of them have Aguero in their team. So I thought that was pretty interesting to mention. And not that I want to particularly copy the top 10 teams, but I always think it's quite interesting taking a look at the average, taking a look at their teams and seeing what they have in common and what kind of sets them apart from other people. Of course, you know, we'd have to sit there forever to go back over their past transfer histories and see whether they play game week to game week or whether they've had the same team since the beginning. All of these sorts of things come into play. However, you know, we can look at some of these players ourselves and say, yeah, well, we can see why they are where they are when they have that player in their team. And I always think that's quite interesting, and I always think that's a good basis to look at where I would like to go with my wildcard. But why on that note would I spend so much on Jones and Azpilicueta, or Dave as his mates call him? It's pretty obvious really. Points. It's that obvious. Points. People, points. Jones have more than Gross and Richarlison, and Dave, Azpilicueta, has more points than Kevin De Bruyne, than KDB. Dave has more points. That's pretty good for a defender. So if you want to consider this particular balanced lineup, you could effectively consider Dave as an extra midfielder, like we were considering Alonso at the beginning of the season. And if you were to put him in the midfielder section, of course we won't because he's a defender, but if you were to put him in that midfielder section, he'd be the third highest midfielder on points so far this season. That's crazy. But it's only even more crazy when you consider if you were comparing him to the forwards and you were putting him in the forward category, he'd be joint level on top with Aguero. 67 points so far this season. He has the same amount of points as Sergio Aguero. So when you bear that in mind, you bear his partnership in mind with Morata and Chelsea's fixtures, can we really do without him? You're going to have to put me a comment below for that one. On a little side note, just to let you guys know where Aguero is in this balanced team is where I effectively had Lukaku. I may keep Lukaku where he is over Aguero just for these next couple of fixtures. If I do that, I will be looking to leave a certain amount of money in the bank in order to swap Lukaku back to Aguero. And I'd like to leave a little mention out there. I've mentioned him in an article so far this week. I've mentioned him in a podcast so far this week. I am pretty much bigging up this player, which means he'll probably do horribly or he'll get completely pecked. I want to put a little shout out there for Fernandinho. And I think I've probably said his name differently in every single place as well, but I think that's right. He's had 2 goals and 2 assists in the last 4 games. Plus, he seems to play over 70 minutes of every game in this Man City side. He could just be a sneaky differential. I'm not going to say he's going to get me a points haul every week, but then again, most players in this sort of setup that I'm going with now in that position are just not going to get me massive points haul. But there are players like Shaqiri and Gross that are fighting for that place right now. Fernandinho's a little cheaper. He's in, possibly the best team of the Premier League so far this season. I don't know how anyone can probably argue that because I don't think they've dropped a game. But when you consider all of those things, he may just be somebody to consider because he should just chug away with the points. As I say, as long as we don't get pecked, which is always a possibility. So that's it, you guys. That's you guys all up to date. This is just meant to be a short video to update you on my wildcard thoughts. I would love to know what you guys think. Please pop me a comment below, send me a message on Twitter. Let me know whether you would go sexy premium forwards or whether you would go sensible balanced team. Until next time, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notifications button and contribute and do all those fabulous things. Oh, and before I go, I did just want to say an absolutely massive thank you to everyone who's supported me through such a difficult time, and it means the world to me. I don't have the words, really. I don't know if I'm back yet fully every week, but when I can make you guys some content, I will, and I just really felt like I wanted to in this international break, so I've been on that, and I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, just thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's meant so much. Most of you will know what's been going on, but no, thank you so much, and I'm going to stop waffling now. Until next time, Nymphrey out.